less than previously planned episode of the show tonight. So basically, I had a couple of interviews lined up for this week, and then I got nipped by COVID. So what can I say? This show may be slightly more off the rails than usual. Yes, this show can get less professional, and we're going to see how tonight. But thankfully, right into my rescue, like the warrior, the knight he is, was my friend Spindles. We're going to welcome in a second. He's from the Wonky Spanner. He's going to talk to me all about the latest goings on from San Diego Comic-Con, which happened this past weekend. Please welcome back to the Dr. Squee Show, Mr. Simon Spindles Potast. How are you doing, Spindles?
Hello, yeah, I'm good, thank you, mate. I'm glad you're on the mend.
Yeah, I think I've just expelled all the energy I had left right there, so it's all over to you.
Oh, wow, all right, okay.
I guess, yeah. I will just say, if you're listening on the radio show, usually I record it like a fresh intro, talk to you a little bit more before the show. This is just how it is. Like, whatever I say right now is just the show for the radio, and we're just going to put in the music as per usual. So, by the way, also, Spindles, if throughout the show you can think of a sci-fi themed track you want to hear, then we will also include that into the show. I'll ask you at the end, so I'll give you some thinking time while we're talking all about the Comic-Cons.
Okay, cool.
So we did just have San Diego Comic-Con. As always, that is a bevy of geek-based latest news and trailers dropping and all sorts of things. Starts off with the first thing which caught your eye, sir.
Okay, well, I mean, obviously, it's the first time since all this COVID nightmare began that people are actually back in person at San Diego, because for the last couple of years, it hasn't been an in-person event. So, it's nice that everybody's got back together and been able to come out and cosplay and do all the cool things again.
Because the last time we spoke for anything like, going out on the interwebs was we were talking about your coverage, I believe, of the Oscars a couple of years ago, because you got to remotely be an Oscars press member.
That's correct. Yeah. So it wasn't this year's Oscars. It was last year's Oscars, which was a virtual event. So yeah.
Oh, so good to be doing this with you tonight, sir.
Indeed. Okay, so yeah, I guess as you said, it was the usual amount of announcements and so forth. I guess it's kind of split up into two things, which is everything else and Marvel. Because
pretty much
there was so many Marvel announcements that it kind of warrants its own section. But I guess we'll kind of talk a little bit about the other things that happened, and we'll save Marvel until the very end.
And Legend of the Traveling TARDIS, my friend Christian's put San Diego. Yeah?
Yes.
I misspelled it or something?
Absolutely. San Diego Comic-Con.
Yeah. Are you asking if that's the Comic-Con we're talking about, or are you telling me off the spelling? Because I am nearly just died of COVID. Yeah, I'm just going to say it. No, I didn't at all. Okay, I had a mild bout of COVID, and my mind's still addled from it. So give me a break, man. Sorry, that's my little... Yes, San Diego, however you might spell it. What's he going to say for that?
Okay.
Is that the UK for San Diego? Yes, it is. Yes, it is. All right, I'm dyslexic and I'm ill. All right? All right, people? Is that enough for you? Yeah, okay, yeah. It's spelled with an E, not an A. Okay, there you go. So I apologize for any San Diegoans and nerds who might have been offended by my misspelling of Comic-Con's homeland name. Sorry, what are we going to kick off? Oh, so we're going to kick off with the non-Marvel first, yeah?
Yeah. So we'll do the non-Marvel. We'll kick off with the one kind of associated with his T-shirt, which is the Dungeons and Dragons movie, which has been kind of information's been doing the rounds about this recently, and they kind of did a first look of the various characters for the Dungeons and Dragons movie, Honor Among Thieves.
How have you stood so far on the Dungeons and Dragons movies they've done to date?
They've not been really good, to be honest. It's I think the first one was just Jeremy Irons chewing the set, and then it was various other people chewing the set in the sequels. But this one kind of promises to be a little bit different, I guess. Even though it kind of looks like we're going to be having Hugh Grant chewing the set on this one, but why not?
It just looks like, I don't know, somehow it just looks like they're having a bit more fun with it. They've got a decent cast there. Like, I'm not saying the other ones haven't had decent cast. It's just, it feels like in a world where it's pretty I would have thought pretty difficult to screw up. Like in a world where fantasy films are doing pretty darn well, like post Lord of the Rings, you'd think it was a no-brainer to do a D&D movie and to just knock it out of the park. And they don't feel like they've done that to date. And this feels like one which might do that.
It does, yeah. And it's kind of got an interesting lineup of people in it and what they're playing. We've got Chris Pine, who looks like he's playing a bard, which is going to be pretty interesting. I mean, I love it. I mean, I play a bard in D&D. Normally, I'll be playing it on a Monday night, but it's not on tonight, so hence I'm here.
Thank goodness for me. Yeah, I mean, Chris, if you're going to put Chris Pine in anything, I'm going to watch. Like, he's good. Like, put any of the Chris's, put any of the good-looking Chris's from Hollywood in something, and I'm pretty much good there. Pine, Hemsworth, they're all good.
Yep, and then also you've got Michelle Rodriguez playing what looks like a barbarian character in there as well. So that'd be quite. I haven't seen her in anything recently in the Fast and the Furious stuff. I can't remember the last thing she was in.
Yeah, I think she just pretty much has made a profession of the Fast and Furiouses, and perhaps as they're coming to an end, we might see her doing a few more things, getting ready for that departure from Fast and Furious land.
Yeah, and who else have we got? We got Sophie Lillis as what looks to be a mage, and Justice Smith also as a mage by the look of it. So yeah, I mean, it looks interesting. The trailer it looks very, very well made, I guess, is the only way of describing it. It's a lot higher budget, I think, previous D&D movies.
Definitely, yeah. They've certainly spent a penny on it. I mean, as usual with the kind of trailer you'd expect at this point, it doesn't give too much away. It just shows lots of things exciting blowing up and a few catch lines and stuff like that. But it does look the part, at least.
I guess for me, the interesting thing is going to be where it's set, because obviously with Wizards of the Coast buying D&D and the associated role-playing games, obviously the worlds of Magic the Gathering and Dungeons and Dragons have been kind of coalescing for the last couple of years now. So all of the settings for the Magic the Gathering card game have started cropping up in the tabletop game, and vice versa, that Forgotten Realms and stuff have been turning up in Magic. So it's been kind of interesting to see that go on. So it remains to be seen kind of where this is going to fall in terms of setting, whether it's going to be traditional D&D setting, so in terms of like Forgotten Realms, something like that, or whether it's going to be one of the newer settings from the Magic the Gathering.
Yeah, I mean, I just somehow, and I don't feel like they've done it thus far. I want to get that feeling like when I'm playing D&D. Now, I know that's really difficult because they're transposing it so it's actually these events taking part, as opposed to someone going, yeah, I'll roll a D6 and see what happens, then D20 or whatever. We can't fully experience, like, put that into the experience without being very, very weird. Which maybe we do want to see that someday. You get like the middle of the action, someone like goes to some nerds in the basement going, it's like, dice be good to me tonight. It's like, maybe we'll see eventually.
Well, one thing they did kind of tease is that the party in this will be essentially going up against the party from the D&D animated series from the 80s.
Oh, wow.
So
I did not know this.
They're kind of they're bringing all of those back for a bit of a kind of conflict. So that could be quite cool.
You know what? I'm in it for that. At least, if nothing else, I want to see. I want to see that crew back. That was actually my first experience of D&D, was that cartoon. So there you go.
Yep, it was for a lot of people. Okay, and in terms of kind of other remakes and continuations of things, another one that caught my eye is
before we do go on to the next, I'm from D&D, from Comic-Con. Christian has reminded me from Legend of the Traveling TARDIS, there is something else we do need to pay note to. Just today, we got the very sad news that David Warner passed away. I was very lucky enough to meet him when he went to the Sci-Fi Weekender. I kind of got an agreement that I was allowed to have like 10 minutes to chat to him at some point, but some friends of mine had paid for a meet and greet, and I was hanging about, and they were kind of like standing about, not really kind of asking him too much because they were so starstruck. I go, look, would it be okay if I just record this little chat with my friends here? And he goes, oh yeah, that'll be fine. Yeah, it'll be the same, me going through the same stories again. And not that with David Warner, you really have to worry about him running out of stories from stuff he's done over the years. But we recorded it, and me and my friends just stood around and had this lovely chat to him. And he just really seemed genuinely, he's just one of these people who has done everything. When you think you're naming his biggest credits, there's about 5 other credits which are equally as big, which you're not naming. And, you think of anything from Tron to Titanic he's done. And the reason why I think he was such an amazing actor myself is because he did not look down on drama TV. There's a number of actors, especially of a certain age, who look at sci-fi and fantasy work as being less than, as being, it's not proper. Oh yeah, it's fine. Okay, I'll do it for the paycheck, but it's not proper acting. A real actor, for me, sees the text and sees what's at the heart of the text. It doesn't matter if the setting happens to be in historic or if it happens to be in the far-flung future on an alien planet. The text of what you're going through, what that character's going through, really shines forth. And that's why one of my favorite performances amongst look, Man with Two Brains is one of the best comedies ever made, and he was amazing in it. Because he didn't try and play it for laughs. He just played the text which was there, and it just became twice as funny for it. But his performance on Star Trek Next Generation, he was in one episode, a second part of a two-parter, where he played Golmasset, I think it was, the torturer of Captain Picard. In this episode, so Picard gets... Yeah, exactly. I mean, this has become such a nerd touchstone. Every kind of geek who's worth his salt knows the reference, how many lights you see, because he was trying to torture Picard to make him say that he could see 5 lights where there were only 4. And he just tortured him throughout. And all throughout, he is playing this really self-important... Cardassian is the character, is the race which he's playing. But he's just playing a torturer who Picard proves that the power isn't in... having these things to torture someone with. It's who you are behind the torturer. It's the fact that you've got that, Picard had a real power in it. And the way David Warner played it, this frustrated torturer who was doing these evil things to this guy and playing like this very kind of like trying to act as if he didn't care that Picard was besting him all the way through and getting so much more frustrated. And he tells us one little story about he gives Picard this kind of like really maggoty, disgusting looking egg, which Picard just chucks down his throat because he hasn't eaten for days. And he says, oh, it reminds me of when I was a child and these bullies would, beat me up for everything I had. So when I got an egg like this, when I found something like this, I would scoff it down much like you did there. And it was just this wonderful speech. And then he gets totally dispowered by Picard going like, brilliant. All I'm going to see now, as opposed to this torture in front of me, I'm just going to see this frightened 10-year-old boy worried about the bigger kids beating you up for what you've got. And the going from this kind of wistful moment to this frustration, which David Warner did so amazingly, it was just one of those great performances. And I think that's why there are 4 lights. It will be remembered forever because it's a wonderful performance. And if he was the type of actor who would overlook something like that, and again, you can point to loads of classical stuff he did as well. He was a Shakespearean actor. He did so many amazing works, but if he overlooked something just because of what style of acting it was, we would have missed such a wonderful performance from him, I believe. And he got to play Doctor Who near the end as a unbound doctor from another universe, and he took great luster in doing that. Maybe you want to say a few words about the great man, sir?
I had a meeting him a couple of times at conventions also, and yeah, he's a thoroughly lovely gentleman who you could easily sit and listen to talking for hours on end. The amount of stories he has about the industry and things he's done, it was insane. Utterly lovely guy. Rest in peace, sir.
And he always had so many more stories to tell, but it was never in a case. He was never like, and let me tell you another wonderful thing I did. He would... No. You'd prompt him and he'd tell the story because that was his job to do. And I think he took great pleasure in it, but there was never... I never got a feeling of an ego with him, really. And
not at all.
Something I could say, actually, of Brian Blessed, funnily enough. One of my favourite stories by him, slightly off topic, but I was at this con... And he was there. It was another sci-fi weekender. And he was obviously talking with great enthusiasm, as Brian Blessed always did. But when someone went away to another table, because these were meet and greets, so you had one table go away, another one come up. And I was just there sort of taking this in and recording a few bits here and there for the interviews which I was doing. And he turned to me and he goes, is that all right? Do you think that's the sort of thing they want to hear? And I go, it's great. Whatever you want to say, they want to hear. Everyone's here to listen to you. And it was the same thing with David Warner. I don't think it was an ego thing. I think it was just, I hope I'm entertaining these people because that's what I'm here to do as an actor. If you're listening on the radio, we're going to hear just, actually, I'll tell you what, I will put in here for the radio folks. Here is the little chat I had with David Warner, just a little spin a handshake, as they call it in the business, of a small chat I had with him at Sci-Fi Weekender. Please enjoy this. If you're watching this in the video version, we're just going to move on to the next article. Spindles, what next have you got for us from the world of Comic-Con?
Well, I guess we'll take off what you've just been talking about in terms of Star Trek and just quickly touch on the Picard Season 3 reveals that they had. So obviously they released some shots of various returning cast from Next Generation. So in the next season, it looks like we're getting Michael Dorn back as Worf. And we're also getting Riker back again after he appeared in Season 1 and then was conspicuously absent for Season 2.
I mean, I think the only people we haven't got is Wesley, which they kind of dealt with the last series of Picard, and Brent Spiner doesn't look to be there unless he comes in as yet another version of the Sung family somewhere along the way.
Yeah, I think Brent's been in it enough at the moment, so let's let the rest of them come in and do some stuff.
Please, whatever you do, no matter how tempted you are, and no matter how wonderful it would be to see the whole crew back together again. Don't revive Data again. Please. You've killed him enough now. He's dead. He's gone. Just let him go. Because for those who didn't watch the last couple of series of Picard, they first of all, in the first series had, sorry, spoilers if you haven't watched any of Picard, but in the first series they had Brent Spiner back as another Sung family member, so for the family who made Data. Then you had near the end, they found a backup copy of Data who wasn't really quite dead, so they got to redo his death scene. And then last series he was a version of the Sung family from the past, Adam Sung, I believe it was. I mean, look, it was a really great. I actually really did enjoy the last series, but I think it's time to maybe rest up that family and that character a little bit, and maybe explore the other characters which we haven't seen so far in Picard. See what's happening with, like, I mean, it was just so nice to see as well where they showed the reveals of them all aged up, like basically just most of them looking like they do out of character, and we've seen them in different cons and stuff. But when you saw Worf and his forehead's exactly the same, they've done the exact same makeup, just aged up as they did on the show. Thank goodness. I was so worried because where they did a different version of the Klingons for Discovery, and pretty much since then, they've seemed very reluctant to show Klingons at all in Star Trek. I don't think we've really seen them at all since then in any Star Trek. So to have, when Worf came back, him looking like he used to, I was like, oh, thank you. That's all you had to do. Just leave him as is.
Yeah, well, they just keep retconning them in stuff like Discovery, which just makes me upset.
I just like, and they were kind of this weird purpley hue as well. It was just weird. And they were bold. I don't know. Like they got Klingons right in the Next Generation. All you've got to do is do, like, if you want to slightly modernize the version to make it look even better with modern prosthetics, fine. But that's the template. You don't have to make them purple and.
Yeah, I just think Klingons have just been walking continuity problems since the beginning. So, you just have to accept it and move on.
Yeah, I get it. Okay, in the original series, they didn't have prosthetics, so they just made them sort of look slightly Greek, maybe. I don't know. They had a slight sheen.
They looked like Vulcans. They had a slight sheen and the raised eyebrows and stuff. So,
Yeah, and I mean, I don't know if we can say this, but it was kind of like it was kind of brown makeup. I don't think it was brown face or anything like that, but it was kind of like I think, give them a sort of, it sort of felt like a bit of a Greek/European feel to it. I think is the best way. I don't think it counts as blackface. I'm glad we're not doing it anymore, but I don't think that's what it was. But yeah, since they got the ridges, I'd say just keep with the pasty heads. That's all I want, is a Cornish pasty on their head,
absolutely,
some big flowing locks, and some armor. That's all I need.
Yep, indeed. And then, of course, the only other one that's coming back as well is LeVar Burton as LaForge is due back as well.
What, didn't you see the other photos? Because we also got Gates McFadden and Troy.
I didn't see,
because there was a first reveal of a couple of photos which I saw online, and then I've seen photos of them all aged up. Unless this has been mocked
I've
up.
seen Marina Sirtis is in there, but I did see Gates McFadden.
If someone's faked that, they've done a darn good job, I've got to say.
No, I can't see it. Okay, that's clearly not in the articles I've been reading. Never mind.
Okay, I may or may not be wrong there, but like the certainly photos I've seen, that it's exactly the same kind of setup of the little promo card they did with the other crew members with Gates McFadden. So, from the rooms I heard, it was kind of meant to be basically all of the Next Generation cast minus, as I say, Data and Crusher Wesley.
Yeah. Okay.
It should be good though. That seems like the right out for, because this is, to all intents and purposes, this is meant to be the last time that Patrick Stewart's going to play Picard. Certainly, that's what he said. It was always going to be 3 series. I think the first series I didn't like very much. The second series I enjoyed the time travel caper of it, and I think there was some really clever writing behind it. Very deep emotional stuff, which Patrick Stewart just sunk his teeth into. So the third series, you just want some fun. I want to see the Enterprise back in some form, and I want to see the original Next Generation crew back to just a mixture of them and his friends from Picard. Just seeing him as his way out of the galaxy.
I guess you just have to kind of take it with a pinch of salt, given that he said that Logan was the last time he'd be playing Professor X. So, time will tell.
Okay, yeah, but like then they dangled the sweet sausage. Okay, I may use a different metaphor than that, but they dangled the sweet carrot of the MCU in front of it. I think it was that one chance of playing it for the MCU. It was one scene. He gets to be in the classic kind of look as well of the X-Men. And come on, I think if they could find the Star Trek equivalent of that, maybe something like I've always said, since they've got so much Star Trek in the works at the moment, why not have a complete crossover event with all the kind of different timelines? You have some weird sort of time travel caper and just bring in all of them. Something like that.
I believe there is supposed to be some kind of crossover with the Lower Decks. So I believe they are planning some kind of crossover with a live action and Lower Decks next year, which could be very interesting. So keep eyes peeled for that one.
I think if you had an event of that magnitude and you just go to Patrick Stewart's, like, it's one scene, you can record it from home, we'll just have you on the view screen. He'd probably do something like that, but I think this is probably going to be the last substantive Picard action we're going to see. It probably at his age, that's more than likely. He's saying his goodbyes now to that character, which is fair enough.
Indeed.
I just want them to stick the landing now.
Yeah. So moving swiftly on, one that caught my eye, and it's because I enjoyed the original movies, and I believe there's talk of a third one being in the pipeline as well, is the National Treasure Edge of History, which is a 10-episode series coming to Disney Plus.
Now, I was never a National Treasurers, but I believe Nick Cage, very, very kind of central, pivotal to this. I mean, really, if you're going to make National Treasure, you can't do it without Nick Cage. Am I right?
Well, I don't believe he's involved in the TV show. So he is. There is talk of him doing a third movie, and some of the characters from the original. I think Harvey Keitel is reprising his role in the TV show. So it is definitely linked to the films. So I'm not sure. I guess the opening is there for him to turn up, and we'll see kind of how the movie plays out as to whether he will turn up. So yeah, just seeing who's in it.
I mean, to be honest with you, I was just trolling you there. I mean, I'd heard that he wasn't coming back, and I believe that is a bone of contention with some fans of the franchise.
But
yeah, I mean, like they might do. Maybe they're going to do something like they did with Miss Marvel, who's appeared in the Disney Plus show, and then is going to go into the Marvels, the next Captain Marvel film. And maybe they're going to introduce these characters and they're going to spring new life into it. Because,
maybe
Nick Cage, I'm not saying Nick Cage isn't ready to do plenty more of these films. Let's look at Tom Cruise. He's still doing the bloody Mission Impossible films. And he's in his 80s now, I believe. I'm pretty sure he's in his 80s.
He's at least 90.
At least 90, yeah. So, if he can still do it, Harrison Ford can still do Indy. Sod it. Nick Cage has got quite a few national treasures left in him. But it doesn't hurt to introduce some new kind of vibrant younger crew members.
Indeed. Then on to something that I'm personally incredibly excited about, which was a new trailer for the Sandman series, which is due on Netflix in like 10 days or so, which I'm literally counting down the hours to.
Oh, just wipe the draw from my mouth for a minute there. I recently, actually, not that, a couple months ago, I listened to the Audible sort of series. They've done 2 of them, and I believe they've got a 3rd one coming up as well.
Yep.
Man, they've got a lot to live up to. Like the Netflix one looks great, I've got to say, but the casting was so pitch perfect on the audio version. I really feel like they've got to live up to that. They had James McAvoy in the lead in that one, and a wonderful performance by the woman who played Death, who's from the Marvel movies as well.
Kat Dennings.
Kat Dennings. She was so good as Death as well.
Yep.
Yeah, that 1-2 punch is going to be a lot for me to kind of like to be bested in these TV show.
Bear in mind, for me, that it's the comics. They have a lot to live up to. You won't be able to see it properly, but just this framed thing above my shoulder here is a signed issue 1 of Sandman.
I must admit, I never read the comics, but like for people who had read the comics who I talked to, they said how the audio's really nailed it to, very true to it whilst doing an audio version.
And I think that's the thing, is that I think the audio books have been like full cast recording. They've been incredibly accurate to the comics. I don't believe this new series is going to be as accurate to the comics, but I'm really looking forward to the reimagining of it.
Yeah, I mean, every version's got to do their own thing, and the fact that it is on visual medium as opposed to an audio just changes it instantly. I think I'll be listening out for just James McAvoy seems so perfect casting. And who's the guy they got playing it? A fairly young guy.
So I can't remember his name off the top of my head.
Because, by the way, for anyone who hasn't experienced the Sandman in any format, basically they try and catch Death in a cage, and as opposed to catching Death, they capture his brother Dream, and it's all the weird and wonderful kind of like exploits he goes on, and both as fantastical as dark it is in places as well.
Tom Sturridge is the actor who's playing Dream.
Not familiar with him. Have you seen him in anything?
No, I haven't. No, but I mean, some of the other casting I think is inspired. I think Gwendolyn Christie as Lucifer is going to be absolutely amazing.
Yeah, and you've got to say sometimes it can be a sensible move to go for a complete unheard of actor and just like they can just make it their own.
Definitely. So, I mean, he looks the part. I mean, looking at the trailer, I can kind of look at the trailer and go, these are all the bits from the comic that they're doing then, are they? Right.
Yes. And the thing was, with the audio book, it'll be interesting to see how they frame it. Because the reason why I think the audio's worked so well for it was because, and I suppose this is episodic TV, so you can do the same sort of thing. Each book felt like a chapter, felt like a different adventure that Dream went on. And you could very easily delineate it. And these seem like quite big stories. So I don't know if you'll have a couple episodes per story or, because there's a lot of interlinking themes.
There's a hell of a lot. I mean,
there's larger stories.
There's 75 issues of the comic, and that's like 10 collected volumes. And so, I think as far as we're up to with the audio books at the moment, we're only as far as volume 6. So you've still got 4 more volumes to go for just the audio books. So I don't know how long they're going to spend on stuff in the TV show. I mean, from what I see, it's definitely up to volume 3, because there are things that happen in the trailer that happen in volume 3. So it depends whether they're all coming out in season 1 and they're kind of going to do a similar thing to the audio books, that they'll do season 1 focusing on the first 3, season 2 focusing on the next 3, season 3 focusing on the final. So it's a huge thing to try and pull together, because I obviously, having read the comics and knowing what comes up towards the end, there's a massive amount of stuff to do.
And I just love that kind of like feeling of, right, we'll tell you one story, then we'll go like there's an interlinking thing, and then we'll go on to the next kind of story within the, and then we'll have something which refers back to the first story in it, and they're just so well woven together. But it feels almost like there were a couple of stories within it, I've got to admit, especially in the second volume, probably there's a few of the stories where I was like, I'm not quite as engaged in this one, but that you're into another story. to keep you going.
Yeah, because a couple of the volumes are basically anthologies of one shots. So, like A Dream of a Thousand Cats and things are individual stories, and the one about the city and being a dream and stuff. So there are certain volumes of Sandman that are just a collection of individual one-shot stories. So
Yes.
they kind of sit in the middle as interludes between the kind of main plot line. So you have a bunch of main plot line, bunch of anthology, back to main plot line again. So hopefully they'll kind of intersperse those as well.
Yeah, because you get everything from like a story whereby he just sort of on a whim makes this guy immortal, and you get to follow his life as they have these regular meetings every so many years. And it's a wonderful, whimsical little story, very well told. Matthew Horn, who played that character in the audio. And then you can have another story where he literally goes to overtake hell. So that's a slightly larger story. And both were just as entertaining. So I'm really looking forward to this one.
So yeah, can't bring that on about 10 days time, and then we'll get the first episode.
Brilliant.
Right, and then onto another adaptation, which is one that I didn't know much about until now, and that is Anne Rice's Interview with the Vampire series, which is coming later this year.
Which a number of us will know from the films during the 90s, I want to say, with Tom Cruise was in an Interview with the Vampire.
And the series of books, so Anne Rice's series of books.
Of course, of course.
So interestingly, they've got Jacob Anderson in playing Louis, who was the Brad Pitt character in the film. Jacob Anderson is Grey Worm from Game of Thrones, and he was in the latest Doctor Who as the guy on the weather station.
I try to forget the latest Doctor Who as much. No, I'm not going to get bitchy here. No, I'm going to be good. I'm going to be good. Yes, in that wonderful Doctor Who last series. But yeah.
So he's also a very good rapper who raps under the name Rally Ritchie. He's a very, very, very talented musician as well.
I did not know that.
We saw him support Run DMC about 4 years ago.
Absolutely fantastic actor. Really great in Game of Thrones. Look, I was joking about Doctor Who. Last series was at least an improvement. Cool. And he was great in it. He wonderful actor. So very looking forward to seeing that. It seems like a no-brainer to make that. Means that could be a series of films going forward.
Well, again, it's a TV show again. But again,
it's TV show. Sorry.
And I think there's like 8 novels. And so I think it could go on for a very, very long time, knowing again how the story of Lestat continues after that first one, because obviously the first one is focused on Louis and his interactions with Lestat, and then it kind of switches focus to be more about Lestat in the books later on and his kind of journeys around the universe, and it goes very, very strange much later on. I won't say too much about it, but his body gets stolen in one thing by an entity. It's very, very confusing.
Sounds like a lot of fun, and this seems what they do quite often now. They'll do a series, and so one series will be that book, and then the next series will be the next book, and they did it with Hannibal very well, which I thought was cancelled way before its time, but that's another thing.
Very well with the Expanse, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I mean they've got. Let's face it, vampires are still. Yeah, it seems like the vampire train isn't being stopped just yet.
I don't think it ever will, sir. It's one of those TV and movie tropes that just will never go away.
And Anne Rice was one of the kind of the foremost authors in the space at one stage. Those books were huge, as were the films. So it's, if anything, it's just a surprise they haven't got to this one before now.
Indeed. I mean, Anne Rice passed away, probably, was it a year and a half, maybe 2 years ago now? So, she's not around to see the adaptation get it. It's kind of just desserts, I would say, because, the film, much as it was good, and we kind of said about Cruise, is, he did a very good job in it, but, the role was written for a younger Rutger Hauer, That's how he was always described. So if you imagine Rutger Hauer in the 80s, that's what Lestat is supposed to be.
Yeah, I mean that's not the first thing which springs to mind when I think Tom Cruise, but
true.
Yeah, I think this one will be good. That sounds like one to watch out for.
Okay, and then on to some quick DC bits and pieces. So some new trailers surfaced from upcoming DC movies. So we had Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson there promoting Black Adam. So we had a new trailer. And also on the flip side of that, we had Zach Levi with the new trailer for Shazam: Fury of the Gods. So there'll be some interesting new movies coming out.
I haven't had a chance to check out the Shazam 2 trailer. I did quite enjoy the first one. I think it was a bit of a misstep that whenever, like, this kid was meant to be kind of quite embittered by his experience in the foster system, a bit grouchy generally, wasn't fitting in with people. But as soon as he became Zachary Levi, he became the happiest kid in the world, and plus about 10 years younger than he was, and he was 15.
That was kind of my problem with the movie as well.
Yeah, and he caught a bus by its window. So there were some less than perfect things, but generally it was a kind of fun time of a film. So I think a second one, as long as they kind of follow that formula, maybe work out a few of those kinks would be nice. How did the trailer look for that one?
Oh, it looks interesting. It looks like more of the same, and you might get some payoff on your bus thing because he throws a bus at a dragon. So you have to see how he catches it first, whether he catches it by the window or by the frame, and then you can be vindicated, sir.
It's fine if he catches it by the frame. I know it's all bunkum, really. It's superheroes and stuff, but
it's a superhero movie, and that's where it lost you.
I'm just no. My point is, it's like I know it's all make believe, and that's usually people's argument. It's like, oh, that's the only first thing. Go, you didn't think a man flying was a bit? No. Within the reality of this world, people can fly. It doesn't mean glass is magic suddenly. That's my point. It's like, yes, it may be tougher than glass in a bus, but it's not quite that tough, I don't think. Just catch it by the frame. That's all I'm asking. But yeah, more of the same would be absolutely fine. Black Adam. Now again, looks like a good time. Could be fun. Like The Rock seems to be able to do no wrong. Even in films which I don't think are that great, he's always good value. But yeah, they seem to have done a pivot from the comics. So this does seem more of your anti-hero than the kind of villain which Black Adam was to begin with.
Well, traditionally he's Shazam's kind of nemesis, so it's interesting that they're releasing that. They don't seem to be tied together at all.
Well, I mean, I would assume still at some point we're going to have a face-off between them. But
honestly, I don't know, because the way that the DC universe is going at the moment, they all just seem to be a series of one-shots, while, that there are references in the Shazam trailer. He kind of says, there's Batman and Aquaman and all these. So he references the fact that they exist and going like, well, why would people need me? But I don't believe there's any actual kind of meshing between them. So I think it goes as far as just cursory mention, cameo appearances, like at the end of Peacemaker with the Justice League cameo.
Which, by the way,
hell yeah.
So good. If you haven't checked out Peacemaker yet, please do, guys. It is so good, so much fun. It's everything you want DC in the movies to be, but for my money, hasn't been even at its best as good as Peacemaker is. They nailed the character. They nailed what it should be. They nailed that he is a complete mess, but he's trying to do the right thing. And that's exactly what that character should be. I thought it's kind of fun in the second Suicide Squad film, which he was in. The first film he was in, but the second Suicide Squad film.
Yes.
But man, just not a patch from what he is in this show. And by the way, your friend of mine, Spindles, Ben Gumry, I think you might know him online from the Indie Mac User blog. He tweeted idly at James Gunn going, it's like, hey, you should get Kevin Smith in the next film, which me and Ben, huge Kevin Smith fans. And James Gunn replied saying, yeah, sure, let's make it happen to Kevin Smith. So, man, if this pulls off, Ben Gumry, you owed some sort of award or something. But watch this space. We might yet see a cameo of Kevin Smith in the next Peacemaker series. But yeah, Yeah, I know what you're saying, but it's like...
Just to quickly pick up on that one, there was
Please.
a Clerks 3 panel over the weekend as well.
Oh.
So apparently they showed the first 5 minutes. There hasn't really been much kind of reaction out of that. I haven't been able to find anything about it. I've seen a couple of interviews with Kevin over the course of the weekend talking about the film, but yeah. So it looks like it's going to be great. If you've seen the trailer, then you kind of know what it's about. It's breaking all levels of meta that I can possibly think about, in that it's based on the fact that Kevin had a heart attack a couple of years ago and is recovering, but it's Randall in Clerks having a heart attack and then realizing he wants to make film about working in a convenience store, and so they're filming it in the convenience store that Kevin Smith used to work in, and he made a film about working in that convenience store. And that's too many levels of meta. I can't even wrap my brain around it.
But you know, the thing is, and I've said this before so many times on different things, but I'm just like, I'm sick and tired of people who don't like Kevin Smith stuff anymore complaining about it. Like, if you don't like it, first of all, quite
Just
clearly, don't watch it. You know, I get it. I get it's not going to be for everyone, but he just makes the films that he wants to make, that he finds enjoyable, as he puts it, that only he can make. And he only targets it towards his audience. So the people who still enjoy his stuff. And he makes enough money that they're profitable. That's all you need to do. They don't have to be few. Like, you know, I made a joke earlier about Doctor Who, and I actually said at the time, I have to put my money where my mouth is. I've said for years, people who complain about Doctor Who need to just shut up. Just stop watching if you don't like it. Now, I'm the sucker who's been watching Doctor Who since he was born. And so we'll always watch it no matter how much I don't enjoy it. But I won't then complain. Like, I know I joked earlier, but I won't really complain that, oh, they shouldn't do that, or they've got no right to do that. Like, the modern show can make whatever they want. It's been my cup of tea for a good 40 years. The fact that in the last couple of years it hasn't been what I enjoy most in the show is neither here nor there. I have no right for it to still be, you know, everything I love in the show at all times. Now, it looks like with Russell T Davies coming back, it's going to be what I like again, because I liked his stuff, and that's great, and I look forward to that. But, you know, yes, I had 3 years where it wasn't my cup of tea. Other people absolutely loved it. That's fine. Same thing with Kevin Smith. He's making stuff with which a lot of people who are fans of him still love. And I hate that kind of straw man argument of like, oh, he needs to get off the weed because it's ruining his creative. Blah, blah, blah. He's making the creative things that he wants to make. Yes, while smoking weed. But he doesn't seem to be coming from any harm from it, and he's still making money from it. So just shut up and watch something else.
Absolutely. You know, I'll watch it, and, you know, it doesn't matter to me whether anyone else watches it or not. I'll watch it and I'll enjoy it in the same way that I enjoyed the last couple of films, you know?
Exactly. Like, do I think that the films he makes now always hit the, like, there's a heavier punch some of his earlier movies make, which perhaps some of his later fare doesn't always. But mind you, during the last one, Jane and Silent Bob reboot, his daughter Harley Quinn in that, like he said this, that she was, you know, straight up acting it in a very goofy, silly world. She was acting it straight and became the emotional kind of heft of the movie. And there was actually quite a punch in that. But I think Clerks 3 is more likely to be just good fun and a few weed and nut gags. You know, that's what it's going to be. That's what it's meant to be.
Yeah, absolutely. So bring it on.
Yeah, great.
Okay.
Bring it on. Yeah.
I'm going to carry on rattling through stuff so that we have some time to talk about Marvel at the end, because I'm acutely aware of the time. So there was a new trailer for the new Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power prequel, which looks epic scope. From what I can see, it's essentially going to be trying to bring to life those couple of 100-page of appendices that are at the end of Return of the King and do that some justice.
Yeah, I'm still to be sold on what the story is of it, to be honest with you. I think we're quite far in without really knowing like what the through line of it is, which is a little bit interesting considering how much money they've spent on it. Be nice if there's a plot somewhere in there in the middle, you know?
So it looks like we're getting some of the characters back. So we've definitely got Galadriel in there and some references to Sauron and some classic locations. We've seen Gondor and a few other places. And this new trailer picked up on the creation of the Balrog. So, you know, there's a lot of things in there that you've seen pay off later. And, you know, if you like high fantasy, I imagine it's going to be good.
You see, I mean, it's interesting because, like, the Lord of the Rings films were always meant to be as epic as they were in those movies. Did a wonderful job with it. When they did The Hobbit, I felt that was meant to be a more personal, more kind of like personal journey of one hobbit who ended up in these magnificent, huge settings. But it was just one man's journey, and I think they kind of missed that and tried to make it more of a Lord of the Rings epic than the book really was. And I didn't like that. So it'd be interesting to see what tone this one is. If I get the feeling they're just going to go more and more epic. I think they've got.
Well, I think so, because I don't think it's even pretending to be through the framing device of from being a Hobbit's point of view. I think it is just this is Middle Earth, much more of a kind of Game of Thrones jump around different locations.
But I guess, I mean, maybe that's just my little thing. I wonder if they could do something Tolkien-esque, and Tolkien did write in different styles as well as being very epic in the scale of his stories. He also did some very personal stuff, and I don't know. I'd like to see a bit of that sneak through, maybe. Just an idea.
Yep. Okay, and a bit of a one from left field is the some announcements around Gremlins: Secrets of the Mogwai. I don't know if you've heard about this. It's a new animated series about gremlins. So the first episode has actually already premiered, but the whole rest of the series is not due out until next year. And it was confirmed that Zach Galligan is back in the cast. Whether he's playing Billy Peltzer or not, we don't know. But the rest of the cast, it's people like Sandra Oh, Randall Park, George Takei, Ming-Na Wen. It's got a hell of a cast in it. Next year, Gremlins prequel set in 1920s China.
So I can only imagine that the only way you get Billy into it is a framing device. Maybe he's like, geez, absolutely. I remember when the old guy at the Chinese shop, I stopped by one day and he told me this wonderful story.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's about the only way I can think of it, unless he's playing something different. But
maybe, and that would be kind of fun, like a nice little nod to the original. But it really is nice, and we're seeing more and more of this to have a genuine, legit Oriental cast playing an Oriental cast, and it seems a good way of still telling a Mogwai story, but doing something completely different with it, which is what they did with the second film. That's why I enjoyed the second Gremlins so well, is because it is something completely different, and this does something different again.
It is. Yeah.
I'm totally in the bag for this one.
Yeah, so that should be quite fun. So keep an eye out for that next year. Okay, rolling on, news of the Walking Dead variety. So there was some good news and some bad news for Walking Dead fans. So there was good news in the form of a new trailer for the final episodes that are due out later this year. So that's all happening. And also the new spin-off series, Tales of the Walking Dead, which is an anthology series, 6 episodes following some new characters, some original characters. Looks like we got Samantha Morton back as Alpha before she became Alpha. So it's kind of fleshing out a few of the stories and adding some new ones. Interesting, we've got Terry Crews in there. I'll be interested to see what he does.
Coming off
the back of Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
I'm going to say, no matter what he's doing, it's going to be delightful, because Terry Crews is always delightful. He's just brilliant.
Absolutely.
He's a genius. The fact that he played Terry in Brooklyn Nine-Nine was just inspired, because you just want him going, it's like, Terry feels like this. He's a wonder. He can do anything.
Yeah.
And I think the anthology series makes the most sense, because it's their version of, not what if, but one-shot deals could be really fun, and a fun way of maybe you get Glenn back for an episode. Why not?
Yep.
I am less inspired by the fact that there's about 20 different new Walking Dead film series, but sorry, I think you're going to go into that now a bit.
Well, I mean, not too much. It's just it's kind of a double-edged blade, because it was kind of originally when Andrew Lincoln left The Walking Dead, it was announced that he was going to be doing a trilogy of movies, but the announcement is now that that's not happening. It's instead going to be a limited series coming on AMC next year. So they've kind of scrapped the movie idea and they're bringing it back as a limited run series instead. So it's kind of double-edged blade in that, it's not going to be at the cinema, but the good thing about that is that you won't have to wait for a trilogy to be released at the cinema. It's just going to be released as a kind of single package limited series.
And I thought the last series, actually, they did start to pick up the momentum again. They made it a bit more entertaining again. It was never, again, what it was at its height, I didn't think. But I did kind of want to see Andrew Lincoln back for the last of the regular run, though. It feels incomplete.
I mean, He may well be. You never know, because obviously we've got the last few episodes due at the end of this year, so he may well turn up as a kind of lead into the limited series. Because obviously then we've got the spin-offs, as you were saying, but...
Yeah, one of the spin-offs which they've been talking about for quite a while, which apparently has taken a little bit of a turn. So they have the Daryl and Carol show, as I've been nicknaming it, but Carol is now just going to be a guest appearance. The Daryl show featuring Carol in a few episodes. For whatever reason, she wasn't happy with the way it was going forward, it sounded like. But I don't know. If there was one character which I thought wasn't fleshed out enough, oh, thank God we're going to get more Daryl. I love Daryl, but it's like he is one of the most trodden characters that we've seen. I think if you're going to do a spin-off, it should be a character you don't know as well, like something you've got some more meat on the bones to explore. So I'll give it a go, but it doesn't excite me as much as I say, if you take another character, go, oh, remember this character, you had him for a bit, let's see more of them.
Yep. Okay, so that was it really on the Walking Dead news. Last kind of really interesting one out of left field before we go on to Marvel was the announcement of John Wick 4.
I'm embarrassed by this, and I do need to watch them, but I have not watched a John Wick. I must admit.
Dear God, man. You must watch them all. They are fantastic films.
I know. And I don't know why. There's no particular reason. It's not that I've been avoiding them. Just never got around to them. So I need to binge them at some point. So, but yeah, it seems like Keanu Reeves has nothing but fun making those films. And it seems like everyone wants him to make them. So I did perfect. Yeah. It sounds like he could do John Wick 20 and we'd still be excited from what I hear.
Absolutely. Yep. So yeah, he crashed someone else's panel and announced that. It happened that the director was on that panel, so it's fine.
By the way, how nice is Keanu Reeves? I know everyone knows how wonderful he is, but I saw an interview the other day where they're interviewing him because he plays Batman in the new Super Pets film, and he was taking great fun talking about, yeah, great, I get to play Batman. Yeah, I've always wanted to play Batman, never got it offered before. Brilliant. And then they asked him about him visiting a kid in hospital. And he just got so shy, and he just went like, look, yeah, of course I do that because, anyway, like the kid was cool. What a cool kid. He was amazing. Move on. He looked so uncomfortable blowing up his own spot for something which most of us, even if we weren't going to aggrandize ourselves, would go, it's like, yeah, of course, I want to see him. I had some signs between shoots or whatever, but he didn't want to say anything which would for a minute put the focus on him. And it was so endearing, just such a lovely guy. I know that's nothing to do with John Wick, but I haven't seen the film, so that's my bit of Keanu Reeves, which I heard this week. Just him being lovely.
And then that brings us to the massive slew of Marvel announcements. So I guess we've got enough time to kind of go through the lineup as we can go
slightly over the hour if we need to.
Yeah, so looks like what we've got is we're finishing off Phase 4 this year with the She-Hulk series and Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. That's going to conclude Phase 4. And then...
I mean, are you very well versed in She-Hulk?
I'm versed enough in She-Hulk.
So from what I'm getting from the trailer, I have no prior knowledge of She-Hulk, to be honest with you. It seems like so is she apparently stuck in the green, but she doesn't go quite as
I think she's more akin to the kind of Professor Hulk that we saw in was it Civil War? No, I can't remember which one it was now. I think it was Civil War, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was the one before the last one, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Well, where we saw him. Actually, we see him. He's quite over both of them, but that's when we first see him. Yeah. I mean, excuse me. Looks like Mark Ruffalo's having a lot of fun returning back as the Hulk in this, as the kind of mentor role, which I think would be great fun. I must admit, I don't quite know what the show is yet from the trailer because so she's kind of a lawyer, but she's also
a lawyer. Yes, indeed.
I'm not sure what the show is yet. Maybe can you elucidate at all from the comics what it might be?
Well, not really, no, because I don't really know what's coming up either. I mean, it could tie in with a whole bunch of different things. Obviously, we had the bits from kind of Spider-Man in the last movie, which kind of could tie in, but also with the Daredevil stuff, which was in that as well. So it could go down various routes, and I really don't know.
And the Wakanda Forever trailer looks really great. Great score. Those nice little bits of dialogue and stuff, but it's not really clear. And I think they were trying to, obviously this is a teaser trailer, so we won't expect it all to be cleared up from this. But it looks like they're trying to hide the fact of, who's going to be the Black Panther? When's that going to come in? You just see the claw near the end. I think it's fairly well established it's going to be his sister, though. Yeah?
I think that's probably the way it's going to go.
It seems like the most logical. I mean, the one good thing... Yeah, I mean, as much as we're going to miss the mighty Chadwick Boseman, who was just so amazing in that role, the one good thing about the situation we find ourselves in without him is that it was a really good core cast in it. It wasn't just him. It was a whole kind of like, it was a bit of an ensemble piece with him as the lead. So I think they've got a lot there to build on in that world. They really did do a good job in the first Black Panther movie and in the... I think it was Civil War where they first introduced the character of creating a whole world. So I think given that we've got to go forward without Chadwick, they've got a lot to carve out a new story from, thankfully.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then we're kind of launching into the Phase 5 lineup, which is starting as of next year. So 2023 is a mix of films and TV shows. So we've got Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, Secret Invasion, Guardians of the Galaxy 3, Echo, Loki Season 2, The Marvels, Blade, Ironheart, and Agatha Coven of Chaos. Those are next year's TV and movie releases.
Now, one thing people have said about the current phase is that it's not really, whereas with the other ones, it's been really clear. This one, we were building up the Avengers. This one, we were going towards Thanos, whereas this latest phase has been a bit more nebulous what it's been about.
And I think that's because it's being dubbed the multiversal saga.
Yes, I think that's the way we're going, is multiverse and magic being big elements of the next phase. I think that's what it's kind of queued us up towards.
Yes. So it looks like a big kind of multiversal thing, and likely it's going to be Kang the Conqueror, who's going to be the kind of the big bad of it all, coming off the back of Loki Season 1.
Yeah. Which, by the way, if you didn't know the comics, that wasn't really... I thought his character reveal was a bit weakly done in that. I mean, I enjoyed that. I enjoyed the Loki series. I think it's especially queued up very well for the next series. But yeah, it seemed a bit weak sauce that they're just going to go. It's like, well, people who read the comics will know it. I think they've done a better job in the past of really establishing who someone is.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my only little note. But yes, I think we've got some good times coming up in the good ship Marvel.
And then kind of we're going into 2024 with the last three things for Phase 5, which is Daredevil Born Again, TV show which brings back Charlie Cox again, Captain America New World Order, and then finishing off with Thunderbolts. Now, interestingly, Thunderbolts we're going to have to see whether we're getting the same actors reprising the characters from the Defenders series, so Luke Cage and Danny Rand. Whether we're going to get the same actors that played those or not, or whether they're going to recast them. There's no real news on announcements on that one.
There is a school of thought which has been preferred by a few people, which is maybe they can pick and choose. So, like, obviously they're bringing back Daredevil with Charlie Cox. I think Luke Cage was very popular, and I think as was Jessica Jones.
Well, Jessica Jones, yeah, but again, there's nothing in there that kind of suggests that Jessica Jones is coming back.
No. But the only one which really didn't score too well with people was Mr. Iron Fist himself. I think you could see, like, there's a world in which you bring all the others back because they were very popular, and you just either don't include him or include a new actor in that character's role.
Yeah.
Which I wouldn't be too upset by. Let's just say, Iron Fist was not the greatest of TV shows.
Indeed.
Oh, and by the way, you mentioned Charlie Cox there as Daredevil. He's also coming back to cartoon. So they're going to have Spider-Man.
Oh, he's in the Spider-Man. Yeah, he's in the Spider-Man cartoon.
It's, freshman year, is it?
Yeah, freshman year.
I can't remember my American years and stuff, but I think it's freshman year. So, yeah, it's going to be Peter Parker before he was in the MCU films. It's going to be the same iteration, I believe. But with him playing, and with Charlie Cox as Daredevil as a mentor role, which could be really interesting and really perhaps nicely set up, the future of how Daredevil comes in.
Yep. And then if that wasn't enough as outlining all of Phase 5, they've also announced a bunch of stuff for Phase 6, which is beginning with Fantastic Four at the end of 2024 and will apparently end with Avengers The Kang Dynasty on May the 2nd, 2025, and Avengers Secret Wars on November 7th, 2025.
Now, okay, the Avengers, I get you've got to leave a large gap to set it up, to get everything in place ready for those films, but we've got to wait until 2024 for Fantastic Four. Damn it, when they teased it in Multiverse, I didn't know I'd have to wait kind of a year and a half, at least.
Indeed. And, then there's also X-Men and seeing how they're going to fit in with everything after the sting at the end of Miss Marvel.
I mean, look, we've got the X-Men tease. We've got the Fantastic Four teasers. We've waited so long for them to come back in the fold. Why are they making us wait longer, Spindles? Like, they know we're hungry for it.
I know, but they want to make us wait, and it looks like we're all waiting until 2025 now for all of this to play out.
Now, do you think they're going to do what they've done with the likes of the Avengers, and maybe we get soft launches in other films of having maybe a mutant here, mutant there? Maybe we have
I think we will
popping up or something.
I very much think we will. But then there's also the little tease that they did around the release of X-Men 97, which is coming to Disney Plus in 2023. So that is due to pick up right where the original 90s animation left off, and it's literally continuing from there.
Seems smart. They are definitely pulling on our nostalgia vibe here.
Very much so. So it's going to be.
Which, just because it ties in, Kevin Smith also announced this weekend that William Shatner is going to be in the next series of Masters of the Universe.
Masters of the Universe. Yes, indeed.
Which, while we're on Shatner, I am just going to do a quick mention. We don't like to focus on the negative too much, but I'm a big fan of Shatner, and I've got a very complex relationship, as many fans do, with him. I believe he is very much this kind of big character. Yeah, he is basically just William Shatner. However, I do not enjoy when the slightly more nasty side of Shatner comes out. And in the same Comic-Con weekend, he's been heard to say that Gene Roddenberry would be turning in his grave at seeing what they've done with Star Trek, and then taking photo ops with the new guy who's playing Captain Kirk, whose name escapes me. I don't know if you can remember it, Spindles.
I don't know about Captain Kirk. So I was thinking Anson Mount, but he plays Pike.
But anyway, the new guy is playing Kirk, who's been seen in Strange New Worlds in the last episode of the first series, and is going to be in the next series. So on one hand, it seems very much like what's very, very heavily rumored about him when they were doing the original series. He'd say one thing in front of people, then something else behind their backs, and then he accuse other people of this. And it just seems such a shame. People love you, man. You don't need to bitch about people to be in the news and to be liked. Everyone already loves you. At 90, is your ego not big enough to go, hey, someone else is playing it, good for them? And he has another interview said how much he's oh yeah, this guy seems good. Oh, he seems good looking and great. Oh, good luck to you, slugger. And he's taking photos with him. And then the second that he's in front of another camera crew where that guy isn't appearing, he just bitches about it. It just seems such a shame. But anyway, that's. But yeah, I do look forward to him in Master of the Universe. Someone suggested very cannily, it was my friend James King from the Retrek podcast, excellent podcast, which I sometimes turn up on. He did say that he could maybe be in as Two-Face, which would be a nice link to the fact that he was always meant to be cast. He was on their list of people to cast as Two-Face in the Batman TV show. And they did bring him in then for one of the animations they did. The last animation actually they did with Adam West and Burt Ward for Adam's sad passing. So yeah, there is this Two-Face. I don't think it's called Two-Face, but it might be Two-Faced. Well, it's some characters named similarly who has got two heads. And if you really want to punk William Shatner, you have one face as him, the other face as Chris Pine, just to mess with him. That's my hot casting tip.
That's fair. Anyway, that kind of brings us down. It's been a breakneck run through it all, but that is your lot.
Well, Comic-Con does give you a lot of fat to chew on. Thank you very much for joining me last minute and for keeping me talking through this as I recover from COVID, my friend.
You are very welcome, sir.
And please, of course, check out all things Spindles on wonkyspanner.com, where you can hear the latest pop culture news and reviews, along with one of my shows, Due South by Southeast, where I took all things due south. Thank you very much, Spindles.
No problem at all. Thank you very much for having me.
I've been Doug Squee. That was my show. And please remember, in a world where you can be absolutely anything, please be kind and a little bit geeky. Bye.